Speaking of which, we're rolling up. Oh, yeah. We really need some kind of audio track over the top of this.
What?
Yeah, like a Michael Schiavello or someone like that.
Yeah.
Some kind of commentator. Hey, guys. Welcome to episode 95 of the Jungle Brothers podcast. It's me, Joey. We've got Paulie.
What's up?
Tior is absent today, but we have a mate of ours and guest, Josh Culibao. Welcome to the show, brother.
Thank you for having me on.
Bro, you go by Josh or Joshua?
Joshua, I feel like my mom's speaking to me like I'm in trouble, so I prefer Josh. So.
Cool. Yeah, it works for Australians. Joshua's got too many syllables.
Yeah, that's it.
Just before we get into it, we're talking fight game today. But before we get into it, just a couple of things I want to mention. Jiu-Jitsu morning program's up and running with JT Tomlinson, so make sure you get down for that. If you want any info on it, get at us, junglebrothers.com. And we also have our next event coming up with Rise Foundation Australia, which will be us participating in a 24-hour walk they're doing, which is, I believe, to raise awareness around suicide. More details on that will be coming soon, but it will be starting here at the gym, and that's going to be coming up, I believe, sometime in March. So dates will come out, but just wanted to let you guys know of that. We've got Josh in the house today. Bro, let me give a little intro to you, just so I give you that base and show you what I know.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of correct me and tell where I went wrong.
Yep.
Josh is, you're a really good friend of a couple of members of our gym.
Yep.
Brooke and Nat.
Yep.
And they're OG members of Jungle Brothers. They've trained with us really since the day that we opened.
5 years plus.
5 years plus. They are official OGs, and you know we've known like their families through our gym. We've known their partners through our gym and some of their friends. And you're one of those guys.
Yep.
We've run into over the years.
Yep.
I think we watched the UFC together up at the pub one time, and it's always by association. You were that guy who was a friend of theirs that was doing MMA.
Yep.
And it was like, oh, cool. You got a little friend who's doing MMA. That's awesome, you know?
Yeah.
And then now you're fighting in the UFC.
Yeah.
So there's been this really cool thing that we've been lucky enough to sort of witness a small part of, right? Because Paul and I, we watched the UFC. Yep. I've seen you compete there. But, you know, I'm also quite oblivious to this whole path that you've been on over the years. So that's what, you know, we'd like to get into today. I think what's really striking about that for me and probably for listeners is that, like, you are officially a UFC fighter, but you're just a dude from Botany, as I know you.
Yeah.
just a young guy that does a bit of fighting, right?
That's it. That's all I am.
And that's I guess that's the story of people who are in this league. Yeah. Which, if you don't know the UFC, I think it'd be safe to say that it's the highest level MMA tournament in the world.
Yeah.
And I don't know, is it fair to say that the UFC would be the most demanding sport in the world? I guess it depends how you...
Well, I think it's I don't know if it's still the fastest growing sport, but it was at one stage the fastest growing sport in the world. So, I don't know how you'd take it.
I mean, I got to say, it would, like, in terms of when I think demanding, I just think about what MMA fighters have to go through, getting beat up, getting injured, fighting people in their training. Like, it's really fucking hardcore stuff.
It is.
Right? To try and carve out a career.
That's it.
Where you get to fight.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure. It's definitely one of those career paths that you have to love before you start making money. You have to have a real passion for it, because if you don't have no passion for it and you're just trying to chase fame, glory, and money, I guarantee you're not going to last, you know, because you really have to have a passion for just the martial art aspect of everything. Just training every day, enjoying the actual training itself, and just, everything that comes with it, just the lifestyle that comes with martial arts.
So how'd you get started in the whole fight thing? What was that? How'd that kick off for you?
Around, like, I was always interested in martial arts growing up. My brother Justin was a black belt in Taekwondo, and he sort of forced us to do Taekwondo at the age of like 11. We did that for a couple of years. Me and my older brother Joseph, we ended up doing Taekwondo for a couple of years.
Have I met him?
You've met him, the one that looks...
you kind of look like twins?
Yeah, everyone says that, looks like twins, yeah. Yep. So we did that for a couple of years, and then we just stumbled across K1 Max, which was just like a kickboxing tournament. It was like pretty like
awesome,
popular in Japan. Like, it's like a amazing thing in Japan. So we stumbled across that, and then we realized like how effective this kickboxing style was. It wasn't like a traditional martial arts or anything where we were doing Taekwondo and we were learning patterns, and we were learning like all this traditional self-defense stuff. And then we sort of seen that and we were like, that's more realistic. I feel like this is more realistic where, you know, someone's not going to come up to you and like strike you like this, you know what I mean? So it was more so like, oh yeah, that gained me and Joseph's interest to try something else. So we ended up trying, looking for a kickboxing gym, and stumbled upon an MMA gym, even though we did, you know, we knew about the UFC. We did watch the UFC, like the early UFCs, but we were there more so for the kickboxing side of things. And then, you know, the coach at the time there, Rob Toman, he was like, you know, why don't you guys just try the jiu-jitsu class? And then I was like, oh yeah, let's try the jiu-jitsu class. And then I ended up having my first session, and I was rolling with a guy probably like 30, 35 kilos lighter than me. And at that time I was, you know, pushing probably like 95, 98 kilos. So I was a very big kid.
Wow.
And that was also one of the reasons why I wanted to train and, you know, pick up something to help me lose weight and gain confidence. So, and back to my first jiu-jitsu session is that like I rolled with a guy that was 30, 35 kilos lighter than me, thinking like, oh yeah, I'm so much bigger than this guy, I'm going to throw him around. And then within those 5 minutes, I think I got tapped like 8, 9 times within 5 minutes. And I just was sort of like, you know, like what just happened? I need to learn what this guy just did to me. Like I felt like an absolute child in there. So I was just like, I need to learn this. And then that's where it just kicked off.
What was that gym called?
Excel Combat Academy.
Where's that at?
It was in Malabar.
Okay.
And then we moved to Hillsdale, and then the gym just ended up dissolving because of financial reasons.
Right on.
Yeah.
Damn shame. Man, I think that that introduction to jiu-jitsu where you get towed up by someone way smaller than you, and you're coming in, you're a bit oblivious, and you're like, yeah, whatever, should be fine. And then you're like, oh man, I'm so vulnerable here.
But that was the thing, is that like, I always thought to myself, I'm a big kid, you know, I'm going to throw this guy around. Like I'm so much bigger than you. I'm going to throw you around. I play footy. I tackle other big boys as well. And to me, it was like, you know, I'm a pretty physical guy. I can take this guy. And then this guy ended up like arm barring me, triangle choking me, getting my back, choking me from the back. So I was just like,
whatever he
wanted to. It just made me feel like a child. And that's why I was like, just kind of like blew my mind. I need to learn what this guy did to me. So,
how old were you at that stage?
I was 15.
Okay, and that was your first kind of, besides Taekwondo, that was your first martial arts sort of experience? Before that was football and stuff?
It was football, but I was, like Taekwondo. And again, I was watching, like my whole family was always into like either boxing, you know, kickboxing, watching Bruce Lee films, watching any action sort of film. So we always had like a kind of thing for not so much violence, but more so like
combat.
Yeah, so
the more civilized way to say violence.
Yeah. Where there's rules, you know.
Of course. Your background is Filipino?
Yep. Full Filipino.
Born here or born there?
I'm born here.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Filipinos are big time into their boxing, huh?
Yeah, love it.
What's the deal with that?
Pacquiao, Manny Pacquiao.
All because of him?
I feel like it's all because of him. I think he sort of started a revolution, like where guys were like, you know, this guy came from nothing and now he's one of the biggest stars in the sport, and he's making millions upon millions of dollars, you know. And not only that, he's like helping the country back, you know, helping build the country back up. So,
is he fighting? They're trying to put a fight together with
Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think supposedly it's meant to be happening. I don't know if it's fully official that them two are fighting each other. But
and Connor's trying to squeeze in there as well, isn't he?
No, not after his last performance. So.
You don't think he'll get one?
Nah, they'll see, oh yeah, you lost to this guy last, you got knocked out by this guy. We're not going to put you in there with Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah, right.
Who's going to win that, Garcia?
I think Pacquiao. I think Garcia is still a bit green. I think he's still a bit
hyped up. He's
needs
more time in the ring.
Yeah, I think so.
Fucking fast though, isn't he?
Yeah, very fast.
Yeah, there's another sport that I've known Filipinos to be very interested in, which is pool or snooker.
Snooker, yeah.
Snooker. Yeah. And I had a group of Filipino friends in school, and I actually had a couple a couple of different groups, and all of their all the guys played fuckloads of snooker.
Yeah,
and they were really good at it.
They're all sharks. I tell you why.
Is there a lot? What is it?
You know why? They're all gamblers and they all like betting. So they all go to the local wherever the local drink up area, and they have a pool table there, and they'll just pretend like, oh yeah, I don't know how to play. Lose that first game, okay, put some money on it. Okay, yeah, we'll put some money on it. Boom.
Hustle.
Well, that's it.
Hustle.
Hustle. That's it. Like my dad used to tell me, he goes, Joshua, if anybody asks you to play, the same with basketball as well. They have kids on the street just sitting around the basketball court, and they'll see someone and be like, oh, let's play, a 2-on-2 game, and then let them score the first few, and they'll be like, okay, first to this many, and then we'll put some money on, and then they end up destroying you, like wiping the floor with you as well. So they all do that sort of like, oh yeah, we don't know what we're doing, we're not that good, but we want to play, and then let's chuck some money on it, and then they're a completely different person. So yeah, it's a hustle thing.
Is that that's obviously a bit of a cultural thing? Is that do you find that, does that bleed over into MMA at all? Like, do you take something from that in the way that you fight? Is there any element of like deception, or are you kind of just you show it all?
I feel like I'm just genuinely like I'm pretty quiet. I don't talk trash, don't talk shit to anybody. I'm relatively to myself, and I'm a happy guy. I'm not angry. Don't scream and shout and pop up my chest. But then when it's time to do it, then it's time to do it. I don't, there's no buts or ifs about it. I'm there to do that one job, and that's it.
Crush the dude.
That's it. That's honestly it. That's my job. My job is to go out there and put on a spectacular performance, and put the person away the best way I can, and make it look easy as well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
How would you describe your style?
I got asked this question before, and I still
developing. I guess it's always evolving.
I still don't. I would say I'm more of a counter sort of precise guy. Like, I don't just throw a punch or a kick for the sake of throwing it, and I don't just take anybody down for the sake of just taking them down. Like, everything has a sort of like I'm doing it more so for a game plan. I'm not just doing it for the sake of just doing it.
Strategy
just
there.
Exactly.
You're not. Yeah.
Like, well, that's what Igor's like drilled into me, is that we don't just go out there and just react to whatever my opponent's doing. We go out there and we implement what we're meant to be doing, what we'll be trained to do to fight this guy. So like, if we watch certain film on this guy and we notice something, we're going to go out there and we're going to execute that same thing. And if we execute that same thing and we still lose, then that's it. Like, he was just better than us, and that's it. You can't do anything wrong. But if we go out there and we just play into their game and I still win, he won't be happy with me. He'll be like, okay, you still won the fight. It was happened a few times that I've still won the fight, and he was still upset with me because I didn't follow the game plan. Yeah. So it's like, he's very, 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 I don't know. I didn't know the word, but very like, this is how you do it, and that's how I want you to do it. No other way. You have to do it this way.
Yeah, right. Quite rigid.
Yeah, he's like very old school mentality.
Seems like you got a good relationship with him, though.
Yeah, very, very, very close with him. Very, very close with him.
Yeah, I've seen all the extended highlights for your fights, and it seems like what you described, like pretty calculated. Yep. You're not trying to use like aggression just to go in there and walk over someone, or like physicality just to muscle someone.
Don't get me wrong, there's a time and place for all of that.
For sure.
Yeah, but like majority of the time, it's always trying to be calculated. Obviously, there's going to be times where you hurt someone, and you have to go into for the finish. You have to show that aggression, that mongrel, that intensity. And there's other times where you just have to obviously sit back and play the game that it is, the sport that it is.
Yep.
Would that be the approach of the majority of successful, UFC fighters?
I think so. I think you go out there and you execute a well thought out game plan. You see somebody's weakness and you attack that weakness. I feel like, just like with any sport, I feel like with rugby league, you see rugby league teams, they all have a certain gameplay, and then another team will watch their gameplay and try to figure out where's their weak points, and they'll try to attack the same thing. So that's why I feel like a lot of teams that do a lot of strategy with that sort of stuff, instead of just like, oh yeah, here's the ball, run it. Yeah.
Go hard.
Yeah, that's it. That teams that actually strategize and pick those little things, that like game planning and all that sort of stuff, makes a massive difference in the long run.
So that's the modern day professional sports industry, I suppose.
That's it.
Professional. So
it's a professional thing. It's you've got to treat it like everything. You got to like be picky with everything.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and you're trying to be just a little bit better than everyone else in all areas or one area.
That's it. You're always trying to gain that 1% over your competition. And my coach is a real big person on percentages. So like, for instance, if I was in a MMA fight and for whatever reason I pulled guard for some reason. Like let's say if I had a guillotine and I jumped and pulled guard, he would disown me because he knows if I land on the bottom and I'm on the bottom the rest of that round, I've lost that round. So he's always a very high percentage guy. He's always wants me on top, always wants me controlling position, always wants me picking shots. Never, like he's a very high percentage guy. So like, what's a low percentage thing that you'd hit? Like for some, like
scissor sweep into inside heel hook.
Yeah, or like going for an Imanari roll standing, like something like that. He would
like a flashy move.
Yeah, something that
generally doesn't pull
like,
off.
It'd be like a low percentage. That's the stuff he crucifies you for. You know, like he would just
smart.
He's very high percentage. Like so, everything with him is by the book. Everything is like very basic, but also very like. Yeah, well thought out and like this is that and no what ifs. Just do it like that.
Yeah, okay.
Don't question. Yes, there's variations to this, but that's not how I want it.
So that's Igor, who you train with now.
Yep, that's Igor, my head coach.
What's his last name?
Well, he's Breckenbach.
Breckenbach, that's right.
Yes.
He's a stuntman, right?
He is a stuntman, yes.
Did you ever come across him in the film industry, Paul?
I did. I got one story.
Yeah?
Yeah. Just a side note. I met Igor. He came in as a stuntman. I think we were shooting a commercial for the Olympic Games or something, whatever it was. He came in as an Olympian, just to do gymnastics. We needed footage.
Yep.
Had this long blue screen.
Yep.
And it was a long run with a little springboard onto a horse.
Yeah.
And that was him. He was, he's 5 foot, 5.5.
Yeah,
he's quite short.
Yeah, short.
He's stocky and he's got that European look in his face.
Yeah.
Not that you could really see his face, but he's got that build. Broad shoulders and
he's thick. Yeah,
he looks like a gymnast to the naked eye, to the untrained eye, and he can flip. So he was doing the run, spring off, and it was pretty good. Like I had a chat with him. It was a long time ago, and it's obviously not what he does all the time.
Yeah,
and man, it was impressive.
Yeah,
but he explained that he was a fighter and whatnot.
Yeah,
and there's just another skill that he could do, and he was cast for it, but. He was a bit stiff going over the horse, but it was impressive.
But he implements all that sort of gymnastic stuff in our warm ups and just like basic body movements and stuff. Like he can still pull off, but majority of that stuff he can still pull off. Like without even warming up, and he just does it. I'm just like, man, I can't even do that. I'm like half his age. I can't even do that. So it's like,
that's cool.
Yeah, he's a freak. He's a freak.
How did you end up training with him? So where'd you go from that first experience over at Excel?
So at Excel, the gym dissolved, like I said, and then I was looking for an MMA gym. So at that time, my Excel was affiliated with Legacy.
Oh yeah,
and I was
with Thiago.
Yeah, with Thiago, and I didn't want to do just straight jiu-jitsu because I've experienced in a jiu-jitsu comp where obviously a guy was just holding worm guard and ended up winning that match just by holding worm guard and getting a close sweep attempt. And then, that turned me off jiu-jitsu completely. And I just wanted to do MMA. Like, it was the next transition, doing striking and doing jiu-jitsu and doing MMA just to...
Actual fighting.
And actual fight, So, and then I was looking for an MMA gym. And then I had a look around the closest gyms in the eastern suburbs. So I was looking like down south, like at... What was the name of it? TP Gym. I think
TP?
it was that was back then.
Yeah, with Bernardo and Alex.
Yep.
And
he's no longer there anymore.
No, I think they've both got their own gyms.
They got their own. Yep. And now, I was gonna think about going down there, and then I just thought about really out of the way, and then I thought some other gyms, and then I thought Gracie in Alexandria, but then again it's just another jiu-jitsu gym, and then I just stumbled upon Igor MMA, and then. The first few sessions I had there, me and Igor just hit it off. Like, there was just a connection straight away. Like, I think the way his coaching style really relates to the way I am as a person. I think he figured me out straight away. Like, as a person, I feel like I need to be, always told like, you got to do this, got to do this, got to do this. If I don't do it, I'll just do it my own way. So I feel like me and Igor just really kicked it off because he was a very, direct person. I need that direction in life. Like if he tells me to do something, I'm just going to do it. I'm just a guy that, put the head down, whatever you say, I'll do it. And that's it. And I think that's why we really kicked it off really well. And then that's how it started with me and Igor.
That's cool. So he brings a bit of structure to your life and your training.
That's it.
That's cool. Yeah. And I guess it's in a way, it's probably luck of the draw in many, often whereby you end up with a coach, you might end up with someone that perhaps doesn't complement your personality so well. And, maybe you stick with them, maybe you don't. But I think, I guess you got to think that you're quite fortunate to have found someone that's like, it's a good matchup and it brings the best out of both of you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I feel like, just our relationship, especially over time, just the way it like built, like gaining trust and all that stuff. Being now, without a question of doubt, if he ever screams out anything in my corner and says to do it right there and then, I don't care if it doesn't feel right. I don't care if it feels like I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to get knocked out. I do it.
Wow.
Because it's like that, we've built up over the years that sort of trust where it's like, whatever, sometimes I might see, like he's told me this before, I might see some things in there that he can't see, and I might feel something that he can't see, and vice versa. I'm in there playing and he's outside and he can call some things that I might not see in the overall picture. So like we have that sort of that real trust where like I'll do whatever like I said, whatever he tells me to do, I'm gonna go do it.
That's cool.
Yeah. That's incredible to think. If he says something in your corner and say you said it didn't feel natural or you weren't thinking of that and you are maybe uncertain, but you default back to the trust in him. Yeah. That alone that's an amazing amount of trust.
No, it's huge because obviously it's my body that's on the line, but he's already had his experiences as well. He knows, like, I don't know why I just do. I just connect really well with him. I feel like he's just like a father figure to me, as much as he's a coach, a friend, a training partner, but also like he's like a father figure. So.
Well, you hear that a lot with a lot of the great fighting coach relationships, don't you?
Yeah.
And I see what you're saying, like that he was the right fit for you. And if a coach was a little bit grey on some issues, like that wouldn't work for you. You need kind of black and white, someone who's confident with what they're delivering to you so you don't have the doubt.
Yeah, like what Joe said, I needed the structure. And he's always given me just structure. Something I need to work on, go work on it.
What's the gym's in Bondi Junction, is it? How big's the space there, and like how many people are there and how many fighters are there?
So right now there's only 2 pro fighters, myself and Alan Philpott, who are actually helping coach at the moment. But we have a few young kids coming up through the gym. Yep. But obviously coaches, Igor's standards is very, very high. Okay. And he doesn't just want to throw these kids into the deep end and just throw them in there and just have a fight straight away. But these kids are so eager to learn and so eager to fight. But coach is just like pulling them back and saying, guys, you have to learn this, you have to learn that. Like, yes. And he'll ask them like the most basic, simple questions like, okay, explain what a sweep is. Explain what this is. Explain what you do in this sort of position. And none of them can answer these questions. It's a simple question, but they sort of stumped on some of these questions. Like, well, then I don't want you to fight because you don't understand the concept of some of these basic principles of fighting and you don't understand it.
So you want them to be able to articulate that in their head.
Yeah, like not only do it just because of they saw it watching UFC saw it playing a video game or saw it, like us, one of the people that are sparring do it. It's like they want them to know it consciously. So they're able to, whatever, if they get asked that question from somebody else, they can explain it to somebody else, So coach has a very, very high standard.
Shows some kind of qualification there, like, doesn't it, to be able to, then it's like, okay, you understand it enough intellectually that you've earned the right to kind of participate at that level.
And then there's also a thing with coach as well. He won't let guys do it unless you are fit. Like I said, he's got that old school Eastern European mentality where it's like, you have to be fit. You have to be fit. There is like no questions about it. You have to be fit. Like sometimes
your cardio cannot die.
No, that's
in the middle of the fight.
That's it. He will push you like to the brink every single time. It's like, see, this is what I want every session. This is what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want. But like, yeah, he just works you like a dog. But that's what I mean. Like I need that. I need the structure.
Is Alan in the UFC as well?
No, Alan is was meant to get signed to One FC.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and unfortunately he went through like the whole One FC Warrior series where it's like a contender for him to get into into One FC.
Yeah.
And unfortunately they didn't give him the contract. So it's the way it is. But he's had close to 50 fights.
Wow.
50 MMA
Wow.
fights, yeah.
Wow.
All local ones.
He's fought all over the world.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay.
he was actually a world champion in I forget the promotion, but I think it was called BAMA. I think it's in.
Oh yeah.
I think somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a massive promotion there. So he was a champion there. So he's got a lot of experience. He's actually one of my closest training partners, and he helps me out with my own game. You know, he sees my game, and he's a very very good striker. So he's been helping me out.
That's cool.
What do you call maybe a simple question? What's a professional fighter? Is that someone who is dedicating their life to full-time training with the intention of making money from it? Like,
Yes.
how do you define that?
Yes, exactly. The exactly same way you just explained it. Then
Okay.
is that my coach before I made it to the UFC, I was working 40 hours. So I was an electrician before I made it to the UFC. So I was doing 40 hours work weeks. I was working from 7 to 4, going straight to the gym to be at class by 5, and then not leaving the gym till like 8:39. And that was my Monday to Friday. And then on the Saturday, I'd spar on Saturday, and then the rest of the Saturday and the rest of the Sunday was my day off.
Damn.
So that even then, everyone thinks like, I can't believe you were doing that. But I was still training like an amateur. That's an amateur. That's how amateurs train. Professionals, they literally all they do is, you know, live, breathe, eat this. You know, they wake up that's it. Sleep well. They wake up early. They train. You know, they eat well throughout the day. They rest. They have naps. They have recovery sessions in between sessions. Then they go do another session. You know, it's like they do strength and conditioning. They do all the things you have to be doing to be an athlete. It's no longer just being a fighter, like being a tough guy. You have to be an actual athlete. It's not
Absolutely.
who can take the most punishment, who can take the most punches. It's about being, you know, who's an athlete. It's an actual sport now. It's an athlete.
So what does your week look like now, training-wise, and what sessions do you hit?
So Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, I'm doing strength and conditioning with Jonathan Bailey at Steed Fitness in Chippendale. And then Tuesday, Thursday mornings, I'm grappling with some of the boys at Eager MMA. So like Adam, my coach, Isaac Mitchell, like a lot of the like pretty high level guys that train in the mornings. And then Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm doing kickboxing. Yeah, kickboxing and jiu-jitsu.
At night?
At night, gi jiu-jitsu. And then Tuesday, Thursday, I'm doing a 1 hour pad session on Tuesday, Thursday. And after that, I do my MMA, cage wrestling, MMA wrestling. That makes sense. And then Saturday, I'm sparring.
At the gym?
Yeah, well, this coming week, I'm heading down to Wollongong to spar with Volkanovski to help him get ready for his fight with Brian Ortega.
Oh, damn. When is that fight?
March 27.
Okay. Have you trained with him and sparred with him before?
Yeah. So his last fight when he fought Max Holloway on Fight Island, we had a camp down there. We stayed down there for 6 weeks, and yeah, he basically just paid for our cabin. He had a group of boys, some of the best boys in Australia, to come down there and just be his training partners for 6 weeks, and it was a crazy experience.
I saw you in that promo clip. I was excited for you. Sick,
yeah,
man.
That's
mad.
Sick. Yeah, it's such a good experience.
Volkanovski's the world featherweight champ.
Yep.
Of the UFC for folks who maybe don't know him, and he's like a local boy from Wollongong.
Yep.
And he took out Max Holloway, won the title.
Yep.
Holloway was one of the most dominant champs of all time.
One of them, yeah, for sure.
Incredible.
He took out 2 of the world champions already. So he's taken out Jose Aldo, who was one of the all-time greats in that weight division, and then he's taken out Max Holloway
he
twice.
beat Aldo.
Yep, and he beat Chad Mendes too.
Amazing.
That's
Amazing.
right.
Yep.
So
and then
good.
Max twice. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's it like for you? Like, we were talking about this before, how, you're just a guy, does a bit of fight training, found yourself in the UFC, and then, this world champion, Volkanovski, asks you to come down and help him prep. Are you a bit starstruck in that situation, or is it just kind of work for you?
Nah, for sure. I feel like all the fighters that are in the UFC, I feel like they all fangirl over each other, because you have to remember, you're passionate about this sport. So it means you're watching this sport. You watch other fighters regardless. You do it for entertainment. So when you see someone else, you're like, oh, I know him. Like, I know that person, but you don't know that person personally.
Yeah.
You know him through the fight. So you're like, oh, he's so cool. Like,
Look how he walks.
Yeah, that's it. Personally, that was me whenever I went to the Fight Island and I ran into so many other fighters. It was like, to me, it was like, oh, wow. But they're all there doing the same thing that I'm doing. There's no difference, but they've just had the exposure from the UFC. So now you've been watching him for so long, and now you're there, rubbing shoulders with these guys, and it's just like, oh, it's pretty surreal, but also it's pretty like brings you down to earth that they're the exact same as you.
How about I saw your post when Bruce Buffer said your name?
Oh yeah, is
that cool?
That was like one of those moments where I was like trying to be like, oh. Yep, try to act cool,
focus, look hard.
That's it.
Look hard. It's just like being down at Ruba shops or something.
Look hard.
What was Fight Island? That's an interesting that was a really interesting thing that UFC did throughout COVID. Just for folks who maybe aren't familiar, what was that?
So Fight Island was basically the UFC getting an island, building a structure, and having all their UFC fights there, specifically just for the fights. And it was the only sport going that was live. That was at that time. That was
during COVID, right?
During like the peak of COVID, where everything was shut off and nobody was allowed to leave the country, or nobody was even allowed to travel and all of that. So, yeah. So that was basically it. It was just an island for them to host fights.
And the island was in Abu Dhabi?
In Abu Dhabi, yes.
Okay, and so they had, it was incredible, right? Because, you had NBA, you had Major League Baseball, like every major sporting league in America and other parts of the world. NRL, brother. Mate. So, Rabbitohs. I fucking know. I'm a Miami supporter. What am I talking about?
Do you know where you are?
I know. But every other major league shut down, said we're not doing a league this year, and UFC was like, nah, we're doing it.
That's it.
And they made this thing happen, and they held pay-per-view events all throughout the year. It was really incredible if you're a fan of the UFC, because it's like, fuck me, these guys are still doing it while everyone else had to lay down. What was it like going over there? You stayed at a hotel. It's like you're in a bubble essentially at the hotel.
Yeah. So it was basically, if you're from this area, you would understand, like, it's basically a suburb. So like, for instance, if the Fight Island was in La Perouse, that whole suburb was just cut off specifically for UFC staff and the UFC fighters. And that was it.
Wow.
And you could go all around once you've done the 2 days quarantine. Once you arrive there, you arrive, you do two days quarantine, 48 hours quarantine. You do your tests during those quarantine, those 2 days doing quarantine. Then once you get out, you can go and roam around that whole area.
Ride your bikes and shit.
Ride your bikes, go to the beach. But man, it was so hot out there.
It looked awful.
It was so hot out there. You couldn't, as much as you wanted to go out and explore, like by the time you're just like, oh.
Kind of like I'm getting kind of like equatorial heat, like being in Bali or
it's a different heat where it's like here when you're out in the sun you can breathe, but you get burnt by the sun, right?
Yeah.
There you just like you can't breathe. It's like so muggy. It's just like hard to breathe. The sun isn't like burning you, but it's more so it's just like you're like you're in a sauna. That's what it feels like. You're in a sauna. Like you're trying to breathe, and it's like just hot air. You're breathing hot air here. You know, the sun burns you, but you can breathe, and it's nice and it's cool still. Like this cold wind. There, it's like just
it's like
hot.
an oven.
Yeah, it's just muggy.
It's a desert, isn't it?
Yeah,
essentially,
it's just a desert.
Fuck, amazing. And did you fly over there? Did you get to fly business class?
No,
spewing.
No.
I watched. You know, when you're watching like the UFC embedded and stuff, you see all the fighters. They're like, or I guess it's all like the top tier ones.
Yeah, but the crazy thing about that though, we had, you know how they usually have sections for like the airplane where they have like these sections like row 50 to 70, and then that's another section. Then they have the bathrooms, and they have another section. Then they have a bathroom, and then like till the end of the plane.
Yeah,
we had a whole section between three of us. So we had one whole section between me and my coach and one of my training partners.
You had a whole section.
A whole section.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
50 seats or something.
Yeah,
You could choose what you lie on any seats.
Yeah, you can lay down on whatever seats you want. And it was pretty cool.
That's nice.
Did you get a bit of work in on the plane?
Nah.
Movies.
No. And then, as soon as when we landed in Abu Dhabi, they escorted you straight out like you're some VIP celebrity, and then they chuck you into a coach. The coach is empty. It's just you, and again, just you, your teammate, and my coach, and that was it. And they send you to the bubble, and then you go to the bubble, and then as soon as you get there, they chuck you in a room, do a test, chuck you in the room, and see you in 48 hours.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you had on that, your first fight was Jalen
Turner, yeah.
Jalen Turner. You tell us how you came into that fight.
I was, I don't know how to explain it, but I was, just cruising along, and then 10 days out from the fight, one of my friends told me he was pulling out. So my friend Jamie Malaki is in the UFC. He fights in the lightweight division, so the weight division above me. And he said he was pulling out. He had an injury. And he said, Josh, I think this is the perfect time for you to put your hand up and say you're willing to fight and take my spot, so you get a chance to get into the UFC. And me, I was like, you know what, that's right, I'm going to try it. So I ended up talking to my manager and saying to my manager, Zen, can you try tee something up? And then within a couple of days, I ended up getting a call back from him saying, okay, we're going to send you a contract, we're going to send you this, sign it and send it back, and then get all your medicals done. And then, so it was just like a real like whirlwind within like a span of like 15 days. It was just like everything just happened. Like I had to do all these medicals, signing off on the contract. Like, I don't know, it was just a full on, just a whirlwind.
How long ago was that?
To take a fight that is a weight division heavier than where you're at.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How long ago was this?
This was February last year. February
last year.
23rd, I think. Last year.
Yeah, wow.
I fought.
Did you say he was a teammate of yours?
He wasn't he's not so much of a teammate, but he's a very, very close friend of mine. Like I've known, and we've trained together for the last 10 years now.
Yeah, right. Is he Irish?
Yeah, Irish.
Okay,
Yeah, I think the Cullies
they're friends with
close
him.
with him, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
A couple of our ex-members, all about him.
Yeah.
I saw a couple of his fights.
Yeah.
There's so many people and so many fights,
Yeah.
but if someone knows someone, you end up watching it.
Yeah.
And he's had some heavy fights.
Yeah. So he's one of my boys. He's one of my main, like whenever I get ready for fights, he's one of my main training partners that I get to come down and help me spar. So he ended up telling me to put my hand up and try chase this fight, and I ended up trying to chase that fight and ended up getting it. So that's how it all went about.
And so is that often how the thing works out? Like for someone like you to get into the UFC, where it's like you just get this little opportunity, which happens to be someone you know that's like pulling out, and you're like the first guy. Like you let them know, you let your manager know, they tell the UFC, hey, old mate's pulling out, but we got a guy that's ready to jump straight in.
Exactly.
And they're like, okay, let's do it.
Exactly.
They're just trying to save the event.
Exactly. They're trying to save that fight.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so I'm guessing like that opportunity is rare. Like they don't come along a lot.
No, they don't. So it's like getting a lottery ticket that's a winning lottery ticket and not checking it in. It's just holding on to it.
Yeah, right.
It's like it's pretty much the same thing. It's like I knew about the opportunity and I didn't jump towards it. It's the same. I feel like it's the same. That's the right analogy for it.
Now, if you didn't do that, if you didn't put your hand up to take that fight, what would be your route to get into the UFC?
I probably would have had to have another 2 title fights here in Australia. And then by the time I've already had my 2 title fights, I would have been 10-0. And then I would have jumped into the Contender Series, Dana White Contender Series. And then I probably would have had to win that in like really good fashion.
Which is a reality show where you got to... Is it, or is it just...
It's literally they fly you over just to fight.
Okay.
But you're not in the UFC. It's just basically proving to Dana White that, are you worthy of a contract? And that's it. So I probably would have to fight again.
And you got to win the series.
You got to win it, yeah.
So there's what, like 16 guys?
No. It's just a one-off. It's just a one-off fight, but
okay.
you have to perform and put on a good show for him. Sometimes these guys where they put on like an amazing fight, both of the guys put on an amazing fight, and he ends up giving both of them a contract,
right?
Regardless of winner or loser. So
he wants to see the talent,
and he wants to see like the will and determination and all the rest of it.
So that's got to be a hard, like the opportunity you got was, like you said, a lottery ticket, because I mean, to go through that other path of having to do another 2 fights here,
Yep.
win those,
Yep.
and then get onto the contender and
Yep.
then win that fight. There's a fucking lot of opportunities to lose there.
Yeah, exactly. Three chances to lose. You make one slip. That's the thing with this sport. You make one wrong thing, and then it sets you back so much, you know. So it's very, very picky like that.
So that fight for you came off second best.
Yep.
I remember watching that, felt for you.
Yep.
It's such a harsh reality.
It is.
See someone, like, I mean, someone has to lose every
Yeah,
fight, right?
exactly.
So it's like, it's 50% of like the outcome.
Yeah.
What's that like for you?
Well, so that was my first professional loss. So I came into that fight undefeated. I've never tasted defeat professionally. And then to have my first professional loss in front of a full sold out stadium was kind of like, as much as it was embarrassing, it was more so like to myself that I was like, because I came into that fight out of shape. Like I was literally just got off the couch and gave me 15 days notice to try to get ready for this fight. And like, it was just a massive wake up call that I can't just be a part-time fighter where I'm just getting ready for fights when I know I have a fight. I have to be training all year round. And it was just a massive wake-up call for me.
So that caused you've changed the way you manage yourself since then?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. And you just now stay ready.
Now just stay ready.
Right on.
Now just stay ready. Like I'm training all the time, regardless of if I'm working towards something. Like, yes, it's nice to have a fight, to have motivation to train for something, but all year round, I'm just training. Now I'm doing strength and conditioning. That's one thing that I've neglected. It's funny, throughout my whole fight career, I never did any type of lifting, any strength and conditioning. I literally just trained in the gym and that was it.
Yeah.
And yeah, my conditioning was running.
Yeah.
And that was it. You know, so I did no strength and conditioning, and my nutrition had no nutrition. I was basically just living off boiled eggs, chicken breast, broccoli, and tuna.
Wow.
And coffee. and that was it. So yeah, like it was all through like trial and error. And I'm surprised that I was able to get that far with just winging it, you know?
Now you've obviously got Sarah, the nutritionist, full-time live-in dietitian.
Yeah. Now I've got actually a proper nutritionist, a Geordie Sullivan. Everyone knows him as the fight dietitian.
Geordie Sullivan,
Geordie
right?
Sullivan, yeah.
Is he in Oz or is
he's here in Oz. He's in Queensland. He's based in Queensland. He's got he looks after Alex Volkanovski, the featherweight champion. He looks after Israel Adesanya.
Cool.
He looks after a lot of the guys from City Kickboxing in New Zealand. And he does a majority of the fighters here in the UFC in Australia. So like myself and Jamie Malaki as well. So
okay, and so obviously for you to, I guess the thing that often that from outsiders watching they don't realize, for you to have, you've got a nutrition coach now, you've got obviously Igor, and then you've got a collection of coaches. You've got your PT Jonathan that you're paying it 3 times a week. You've got to pay all these guys.
Yep.
So you got to fork out potentially money that you don't have.
Yeah.
So how the fuck do you manage that? Are you always like hustling to make it work?
Well, the thing is now is that now that one of the biggest blessings is that now because I'm at Igor's and I'm teaching, I'm not paying any membership, and any one-on-one time with Igor is free, and he loves to just train me.
Yep.
That's the sort of relationship we have, and now I'm getting paid to be at the gym. So I'm there training anyway, but then I'm going to teach a class, but then I'll train after. Or I'll train before the class. So I'm teaching classes as well as doing my training there.
UFC pays you?
What's that?
Who pays you to be at the gym?
Igor.
To teach the class?
I'm teaching classes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I'm getting paid to train and coach at the gym. And my strength and conditioning coach doesn't ask for a cent.
Wow.
He actually doesn't ask for a cent. And all he asks that I turn up.
Wow.
That's all he asks for. No bullshit excuse about I'm too sore or I'm feeling sick. Come to the gym, we'll work around it. Honestly, the guys that I have around me, my circle, just a bunch of unbelievable guys that just literally just want the best for me.
And these are guys who have worked with fighters and they know the reality of it, and so they're they do what they can.
Yep. So
in the hope that obviously you're successful,
that's it.
And then that helps them to be successful.
That's it. Exactly. So they, Jonathan Bailey has worked with. I think you would know Rob Wilkinson. Do you know Rob Wilkinson? He used to train out of VT1.
No, Richie.
Richie.
Yeah.
Richie. Bald head, Richie Walsh.
Richie Walsh.
Richie Walsh. That's the one.
Yeah.
So
He came in. I remember Richie came and did a session at our old gym.
Yeah.
Because we came up together as blue belts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's a fucking scary dude. But yeah, I know he was coached by Jonathan for a long time.
So he understands the reality of it, the whole process of weight cutting, and just he knows what's involved in fighting. And he's a massive fight fan himself, so he knows.
That's cool.
Yeah. So a lot of the guys, they do it, out of their own time and free will, that they just want to help me out. So it's I can't ask for anything else, that's the
you
best
can't
for
not
me.
show up.
That's it. Exactly.
That's
That's all he asked for, is for me to just give him my 100, and that's the same thing with Igor. The first thing he ever said to me before I started fighting for Igor is that he goes, Josh, I'm not going to give you my time and effort if you're not going to give me your 100%, your everything. If you're not giving me your everything, then we'll just stop it here, and you can just train and fight whatever you want, but I'm not going to give you the full attention. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to give him my 100%, and this is where it's gotten me so far.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you ever look at the situation you're in and kind of, you're in the middle of it, so you're grinding essentially, right, and trying to get to the next fight and increase your skills and all that sort of thing. But do you ever sit back, look, and go, "Fuck, how did I end up fighting in the UFC?" Like you didn't set out to do that. It's just kind of how it's come. I'm guessing at a point you decided I want to do this.
Yeah.
But does that strike you as something exceptional, or are you just like, do you not really think of it in that way? Is it just a step?
A bit of both. Like I feel like it was just a natural progression of how well I was doing in Australia, winning belts and knocking out people and staying undefeated and winning multiple titles. So I felt like it was just a natural progression. But then also when I first started it, like I said, I was just an overweight kid that just wanted to lose weight and gain confidence and knowledge about martial arts and jiu-jitsu and fighting in general. And then just to take a step back and look and see how far I've gotten. It is a little bit surreal, because sometimes I don't take it in, but then my brothers will come up to me and be like, "Hey, this guy was asking about you, saying, oh yeah, we seen your fight, blah blah blah." So it's like, it's sort of surreal that I am fighting on the highest level, the biggest stage that you can for mixed martial arts, but also I'm just that same kid from Botany that most people know me for. There's no difference. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I remember I was saying to you before, when I used to do a little bit of training with Rob Whittaker. That was at the time when he won the belt, and and we used to just train together. And he was a beast, but he was just a guy, and and then one day he turns up to the gym and he's got the UFC middleweight belt. And we're all holding it and taking photos with him and stuff. And it was mind blowing that this guy who was just a guy that and he's, dealing with the same shit. He's got kids bringing to training, he's got injuries he's working through. Some days he's tired, some days he's on, it's like all the same stuff everyone's kind of dealing with in life. Yet he is the best guy in the world in this division.
In this division, yeah. It's crazy.
It really is it's an incredible thing. And I don't know, it somehow makes them more impressive, but it also, I don't know. I don't know what that feeling is where you realize, fuck, these things are there for the people who want to go after them. But the idea for most people, like for me to think about, I think about doing a local jiu-jitsu competition. And I'm like, oh, it makes me nervous. I can't even imagine walking out in the fucking UFC. You know what I mean? And having Bruce Buffer yell my name. Paulie, you did the fight night here. That was your first fight, right? Yeah. What was
not the same thing, right?
No, but I'm sure there was a bunch of nerves with that too, right? Like
probably more. Yeah. No, it was nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking kind of leading up to it. It's my only experience. I mean, I've been in a couple of jiu-jitsu comps as well, and those were confronting as well. If you haven't been in competition, like combat competition, played plenty of footy games and stuff, but it's different when it's just you standing there. Hey. But nerve-wracking for sure. And this was just like...
But I feel like the nerves are always going to be the same, because you're going out there knowing what needs to be done and knowing that you're putting yourself out there to be, to putting yourself out there in front of your friends and family and all your loved ones that they can see what's going to happen.
That was the most nerve-wracking part, was the fact that it was on Zoom
and it doesn't,
and I knew heaps of people were watching. And you know what I mean? But if we were just sparring, like, you know, I would have done a lot better or whatever it is. But yeah, it's that factor, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's I feel like that's the same thing, whether it's the highest level or fighting in a gym, you know. So I feel like there's no real difference. You still get the nerves because you know there's bodily harm about to happen. Like it can either be you or him, you know. So either way, something's going to happen. Isn't, you know, it's confronting. You don't usually get into confrontations where you have to be physical with someone, and now you're doing it in front of so many people as well. Yes. So it's
how do you deal with that personally, like with your fights, and you know, what's your experiences with those? The
nerves are always there. Don't get me wrong. Like, whoever says they're not nervous, I think they're just calling bullshit. But I feel like everyone gets those nerves, and it's natural. If you don't have nerves, I feel like you're not going to be fully switched on. I think you're going to be slow. You're not going to have that instinct of like urgency or something like that, you know. But
that's your fuel, hey. Like, it has to be. It's the way everyone has it. Like everyone has fear and anxiety.
Exactly.
It's just how your relationship with it, how you manage it.
That's it. Exactly.
Is there anything specific that you do, like training, like in training camp or on the night?
I do a lot of visualization to myself, like whether I'm just at home, just like laying down, I'll just like get up and then I just like pretend like my living room's a cage and I'm walking out, or I'm like just about to start walking, like, you know,
towards touch gloves or whatever.
Touch gloves or something. Like, I do a lot of visualization like that. Or even when I'm in the gym, I'll do the exact same thing. Like, come out, you know, pretend like I'm touching gloves, and then I start shadow boxing for the first 20 seconds and then reset, walk back to the cage where I'm going to start, and then visualize, okay, ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? And then walk out and do the same thing. But I feel like when the fight happens and you have the first like contact and you guys feel like, oh, I forget that I'm not that fragile. I've taken punches in the gym, and then it just starts to feel, well, I always try to tell a lot of people that when they compete, try to make it seem as if you're in the gym, like you're in the gym doing the exact same thing you've done for the last however many years you've done it for. That way, you're just going to react the way you would react when you're in the gym. You don't have to make it any bigger and make it any smaller than what it is. Just literally the way you are in the gym, you're just trying to translate the way you are in the gym to fight night, essentially.
Your first fight was in New Zealand. There was packed stadium.
Yeah,
but then fight night was empty. So the one in NZ, like, what was the nerves like there? Because the belts for the local domestic competitions wouldn't have had as many people.
Nowhere near.
The nerves there, you could feel they were emanating a bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And it's crazy that like there was like however thousands of people, but then when people were screaming out, I could pick particular voices, and a few of my friends were in the crowd, and for some reason I could always pick wherever they were, and just I had a look and they were standing there in the crowd screaming, and I always just picked them out. But then when I got in there and the crowd was still like losing it, like it just zoned all out. Like it just felt like it was just me and him in the cage, and it was just black on the outside, and it was just like literally just in the moment. I was just in the moment, just that's what it felt like. There was no, like, I couldn't hear anything else. It was just literally just me and him.
I guess you're just going to work at that point, and you've done it so many times.
That's it.
Yeah, it seems like that'd be a big jump for someone who doesn't do it, train regularly or spar every week, and do kickboxing 3 times a week. Yeah. But it's more normal for you. So it's probably once you have the first like contact.
Yeah, that's it. I feel like it's always just that nerves just of like, okay, waiting
for the bell.
And then first someone finally like touches each other, like shows a feint, and you guys sort of don't want to initiate first. You're sort of like seeing what's going to go. And then when you guys have the first clash, whether nothing lands or whether something does land, and then you just like step back, you guys look at each other and it's like, okay, all right, it's just, we've done this before. Okay. I've been hit before, so let's go. Let's do this.
Wow. Yeah. It's making me nervous just talking about it.
I know, me too.
I'm like thinking about like, fuck that.
Yeah. All right.
What do your parents think?
My dad loved it. So my dad, like I said, my dad was a massive fan of violent combat. Sorry, we'll call it combat. But he was always loved combat, and he loved the thought of it. And he goes, you know what? He always said from the get go, ever since I was 17, I had my first amateur MMA fight. He was like, "You love this," and you can tell that I loved it. And he was like, "I want you to go for it. If you want to go for it, go for it. I'm not gonna pull you back. I'm not gonna say no. This isn't the right way to do it. If you have a passion for it, you're gonna make it work. You're gonna find a way to make it work." So he was very supportive. Mum, on the other hand, never been to a single fight. She even kind of was scared to watch the fight after she already knew what the result was. So like every single time
Even if it was a win.
Yeah. So every single time I fought, like the ongoing prank was always, "Oh, Mum, yeah, I lost. I'm headed to the hospital. I'm in the ambulance right now." Like that was the typical conversation I always used to have with her, just to scare her. But I was like, "Nah, Mum, I won." Like, and then
I fucked the other guy up. He's in the hospital now.
That's it. So it was always like that. So, but she's like, to this day, she's never been to a live fight, and she like still like only wants to know the result. And then like if I try to show us like even some highlights from the fight, like on video, she doesn't want to see it. So.
She's quietly proud of you.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that'd be really common for a lot of mothers, wouldn't it? I know even my mum has a hard time still. I mean, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for like 13 years, and still usually the first thing she says to me, we talk on the phone, she's like, "Oh, and are you still training that jiu-jitsu?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "You're looking after yourself, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but I can hear that there's a fear there."
At least your mum calls it jiu-jitsu. My mum calls it taekwondo. And then when we were doing taekwondo, she was calling it karate. So you can't win. Whether I was doing taekwondo, she was calling karate. Whether I was doing MMA, she was calling it taekwondo.
And to all of her friends, you're like a Hapkido black belt.
That's it. I know.
Oh, that's cool, man. Mate, what's coming up next for you? Well, like, what are where are you moving towards at the moment? What are you angling for?
Well, I was looking to fight on the same card as Alex Volkanovski, but the way things are looking, I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm looking to fight either end of April or any time in April.
Yep.
But yeah, that's the goal. I'm just waiting on a particular person to sign a contract and we can get it going. But
so you've been angling for a specific opponent?
Yep, I've been angling for specifically Chase Hooper. For guys that don't know who Chase Hooper is everyone that's been teasing him is Ben Askren's son. So
I haven't heard that.
Yeah,
that's fucking excellent.
Yeah, so it's the tall, lanky, curly-headed kid that's got a lot of hype behind him. So I feel like that'd be a great matchup for me and him. So.
And you've been calling. You said you've been calling him out. When you call someone out, is it like you send them a message, or are you like on your social media like, "I want to fight Chase Hooper, let's make it happen"?
Both. I've both messaged him and I've both been tagging him in posts saying, let's do it, and I still haven't received a response. So
yeah, right.
And everybody else has been like commenting on his social media saying, "Oh, fight Josh," and still no response. So I don't know.
He's got a real grappling heavy game.
Yep.
He's a slick jiu-jitsu guy.
Yep.
What would you, when you look at that from the outside, do you think I want to out-grapple him, or do you think no, I want to knock the dude out?
Nah. Like I said, my coach is a very high percentage guy. You know, in the span of, what is it now? It's February now. In the span of me, this time from now to April, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to become,
artist.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to be all of a sudden, one of the best leg lockers in the game. It's all a percentage. So obviously he's good at the ground. That's his strength, and his weakness is on his feet, and everything's a percentage. So I look into, if we do get the fight, it's obviously to knock him out.
Right on. I'd be super excited to see you fight
me
Chase
too.
Hooper, bro.
I'd be mad. So do you just focus on the next fight, or is there like space in your head? Is the goal like UFC goal? That's
always
goal, that's always there.
So that was there was actually I was explaining to someone. They said to me, "Oh, your goal the whole time was to be in the UFC, and now you're finally in the UFC." And I go, "Yeah, now I've had to change my goal because, I fought locally for so long, and then my goal was always to be able to make it to the UFC and fight in the UFC. Now I can't. Obviously, I've achieved that. Now I want to go on to the next thing, and obviously the next thing is that UFC gold, UFC belts. So you always got to be aiming for the next thing.
Yes.
So if you don't have any, then you're just going to be,
of course,
yeah."
What division are you in? How heavy are you?
The 66 kilo division, featherweight division, same as the Australian UFC champion, Alex Volkanovski.
Wow.
Damn. How does that feel, like that you want the belt that he has? And obviously you've got a way to go before that's even, before fighting for that could be a reality. But is there any kind of, do you both acknowledge that?
Yeah, for sure. We've got a friendship. I still remember mucking around. We were at his house after we were celebrating his win over Max Holloway, and I was holding his belt, and I was like, "Hey, Alex, it's not going to take too long for me to get to this." And he goes, "Good, use it as motivation. I want you to." He said it himself. He goes, "I want you to use it as motivation. I want you to chase me." So that there was already like an acknowledgement of like, yes, good. I want you to chase me, like give me that motivation to chase me. So like, but I don't know. Depending on him, I don't know how long he'll be in this sport. I don't know.
He's a bit older.
No, he's not too old, but I feel like he just wants to get in, leave a legacy, get out.
Smart guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's been very smart to get to champion, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He doesn't strike you as the kind of guy that's in there for a long time, because he's got stuff going on and he had his football career, and that's really cool.
Yeah, he's a very, very down to earth guy. And just like when we were talking about just being like an ordinary person, he's like one of the most Aussiest ordinary people you could think of.
Yeah, wow.
Dude, you watch him, he's so Aussie.
Yeah, he's so
and he's
Aussie.
so like there's no ego there. It's just fucking
him.
hard on the sleeve.
That's it. The way he is in interviews is exactly the same way he is in person. When you meet him, always down to have a chat, always down to take photos with whoever, So he's a champion inside and outside of the cage, literally.
That's cool. Mate, is there anyone, we're going to wrap it up, is there anyone you'd like to shout out, or, is there any, where can people follow you? Where can they, is there any avenues you want to direct them towards?
People can follow me on Instagram at Josh Culibao. You can spell my last name Culibao. So Josh Culibao, Culibao. And so if you guys want to follow me, I post usually on just Instagram. I don't usually post too much on Facebook. But
no one does anymore.
Yeah, no one does. It's more of a family thing, I think. That's it.
That's cool. Yeah. What I guess last thing I want to ask you is you're saying you got there's young fighters at the gym you train at, and they're looking at you and they're like, man, I want to fight, and there's this, and there's a real kind of you're a real inspiration for them.
Yep.
What's your advice to young fighters coming up who want to push it to that level?
The same thing. You just have to do the work, and you have to find the relationship with the coach. I think having a relationship with the coach will take you to that next level. You might have somebody that's telling you what to do, but you have to have an actual relationship with the coach to be able to, connect on the same level. And there's a lot of factors that go into making it at a high level in this, with any sport, is that you have to have like a good support system. So you have to have like people that are going to believe in you, guys are going to help you out, You have to have a good team around you, just like exactly what I have now. So yeah, having a good team around you and just having that work ethic of whatever needs to be done, you got to do it. There's no complaining about it, just get it done.
Cool. I like that. Just get it done.
Just get it done.
Bro, thanks for joining us today.
No worries.
We'll be watching from the sidelines.
Yeah.
It's super exciting, and I'd love to see you fight Chase Cooper in the next couple of months.
I hope so. Hope he signs the contract.
Thanks for coming out today, Josh.
No worries. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, bro.
Cheers, Paulie. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Make sure you give Josh a follow. Get on his Instagram. Hype his stuff up. Young dude trying to carve his own path in the fight game. It's cool to see. If you want any help with your training, get at us, junglebrothers.com, or on Instagram at Jungle Brothers Movement. Big shout out to Tree and Panavol Cafe because they supply the coffee that we're sipping on today. It's been a couple of weeks without their stuff, and the episodes were definitely lackluster. It's nice to bring that caffeinated action. And stay in touch. If you like the episode, please take a screenshot of it, chuck it on your Instagram, tag Josh, tag us. It helps to support the show.
Tag Chase.
Tag Chase.
Chase. Yeah,
where you at, Chase?
Yeah, where you at?
And we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for listening.